Good evening, everyone. We're ready to begin tonight's City of Gardena regular City Council meeting for October the 24th, 2017. Madam City Clerk, will you call for the roll, please?
All members of the council are present.
Thank you. We did not have closed session tonight, so we're going to begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Immediately following the Pledge of Allegiance, if you can continue standing for our invocation, tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Andrea and Andrew Espinosa, and immediately following that, the invocation will be led by the Reverend Scott Fairchild. So please stand.
Hi, my name is Andrea Espinosa.
Hello, I'm Andrea Espinosa.
And we would like to lead to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please face the flag.
Put your right hand over your heart.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
If everyone can please remain standing for the invocation. Pastor Fairchild.
All right, let's pray together. Lord, we come before you from many different backgrounds, from many different experiences, from many different roads, and we all come together before you to pray for our council members. We thank you for them. We thank you, Lord, for their wisdom. We thank you, Lord, for the guidance that you give to them. We thank you, Lord, for their willingness to serve. And we ask, God, that you would show them your mercies, show them your grace, lead them in the way that they should go as they lead our fine city. We pray your blessing over our city for all of those that serve our city, from police officers, firemen, all the way down to even those that clean the streets. God, each one plays a significant role, and we thank you for them. We bless them also. And finally, Lord, we bless the members of our city, that in each one of us, Lord, we would know your presence and know the love that you have for us and know the love that we have for one another. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
If I could have our two pledgers, Andrea and Andrew, please come back to the front. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance was led by Andrea and Andrew, who are sister and brother, and who were both selected tonight because of their yearly perfect attendance and their excellent academics and good behavior and exemplary citizenship at Chapman Elementary School. I think we'll let Andrea go first. Andrea, would you like to say anything?
I would like to say thank you for inviting us and thank you for
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Andrew, would you like to say anything?
The same thing as Andrea.
Okay. That's right. Follow your big sister. Well, we want to thank both of you guys. You guys did a great job. And who brought you tonight? Was it Mom, Dad? Yes?
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Okay. Let's give them all a round of applause for doing a great job. You guys can take your seats now, but again, we appreciate what a great job you guys did, and we look forward to you coming back and doing the Pledge of Allegiance in the future again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor Fairchild, if you can come forward. Tonight's invocation was led by the Reverend Scott R. Fairchild, who is the lead pastor at Crossroads South Bay. Reverend Scott R. Fairchild considers himself a community pastor who serves Gardena and the South Bay area. He's been active here since arriving at Crossroads 26 years ago. He served Crossroads as a youth pastor, working for several other youth pastors in the area to organize and host various youth events. 17 years ago, he was elevated to the position of lead pastor, where he has continued to serve with the members of his church, team leaders, and work with a variety of organizations in the area. He has hosted local neighborhood watch and police district meetings at his church facility for over 8 years. He serves on the Gardenia's Chief of Police Advisory Council and hosts various other city and community events. Pastor Scott also leads the South Bay Faith Council and the For Life Group, which unites all those active in improving the quality of life for all ages. His church is here to serve and to help improve our great city. Pastor Scott has also coached both AYSO soccer and a school basketball team. He and his wife, Tracy, have been married for 28 years and have 4 children. Pastor Fairchild, would you like to say anything?
No, it's good that I listened to this because I can't remember what year I came and how long I've been here, and sometimes I forget how long I've been married, so I'm really grateful that you... Anyway, it's an honor to serve all of you. It's an honor to know all of you, and we do pray for you, and you're always welcome coming to our church anytime. We'll pray for you. We believe in the power of prayer, and thank you for being here.
Church?
It was where you came, and we hung out one evening in January. So,
Checking with you. See?
oh, okay. I do remember where that is. Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Everyone, please give him a round of applause as well.
Oh, all right. You want the address? I'm sorry, the address. The kind former mayor here has kept me on my toes. 2818 Manhattan Beach Boulevard, right by the McDonald's. And the reason I have to say McDonald's is even though our church is like about 4 times the size of McDonald's, everybody can't remember where we are until I say, oh, we're next to the McDonald's. Oh, that's where you are. Okay, so there you go.
Thank you. So next, we have a presentation tonight. And before I read the bio here, I'm going to first start off by letting the Mayor Pro Tem say something tonight, because this was kind of his brainchild here that he started. And it's one of our first presentations we're going to be doing honoring a military veteran here. So Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to say anything before I read the bio and before we ask the person to come forward?
Yes. A few years back, first of all, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I was with the 101st Airborne. I was a medic. And the trend a couple of years ago was to say, thank you for your service. And it was always like, good morning kind of thing. And until this one gentleman held my hand and shook it and said, I want to thank you for your service. And I said, well, it was my honor. And I started to walk away, and he wouldn't let go of my hand. And I wondered why he was doing it. He says, the reason I'm not letting go of your hand, he says, because I want to know more about you. I want to know what you did. Did you get drafted? Did you join? He wanted more information about why I went to Vietnam and what I'm doing now. So that kind of stuck into my head as far as thanking a veteran. And I've been working diligently to get this event for today to thank a vet. And we're going to continue doing this at every single council meeting from this day forward until we run out of veterans, because a lot of them have never been thanked. And I really believe that this is a way of letting our community thank its citizenry for their service to the country. And I picked this person because she was in Vietnam at the same time I was, and she was a nurse and I wasn't. I was a medic. And that's all.
Okay, so as we bring forward this person here, I'm going to read her bio. So first off, if I could have Joan Mitchell please come forward. And I'm going to read her bio, and then I'll give her the opportunity to say something if she'd like. So Joan Mitchell is a 44-year resident of Gardena. She is a former U.S. Army nurse who served in Vietnam in 1966 through 1967. She was born and grew up in Midland, Michigan. While working in the emergency room at Midland Hospital, she was recruited into the Army Nurse Corps. She did her basic training at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, and was commissioned as a second lieutenant. Her first assignment was at 85th Evacuation Hospital in Quang Nam, Vietnam in 1966, working mostly in the medical ICU, during her service in Vietnam, she became ill and had to be med-evacuated to Letterman General Hospital at the Army Presidio in San Francisco. Once she recovered, she was reassigned to work at the same hospital. Unfortunately, she later injured her back when picking up a patient. Following back surgery, she was honorably discharged from the Army in 1968 as a first lieutenant. After her discharge, she met and married her husband, Glenn, and relocated to Southern California. Joan and Glenn have 2 children, Stephanie and Colin, a stepson, Glenn III, and 1 grandson, Evan. She is listed on the Women's War Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery in recognition of her service in the U.S. Army. Congratulations. Ms. Mitchell, would you like to say anything?
Press the button.
Yes. I thank you for this honor. I was not a combat soldier. They're the ones that did this suffering. And believe me, they did. They still are today. And it was very difficult for them to come back with differing kinds of disabilities, even somebody who didn't, and to not be appreciated by the people in our country. I've been very fortunate because, yes, I've had many people say thank you for your service. But the one thing that really stuck out in my mind, I was at a Rotary meeting, and this poor guy just started getting tears in his eyes, thanking me. It was a little overwhelming. I didn't expect that, but I knew that was heartfelt. I just want you to know this is a wonderful thing that you're going to do for the different veterans. We're getting old, those of us from Vietnam. I was just sitting with a poor guy today at the VA who was homeless. And I was so frustrated because I didn't know, what can I do to help this man? He told me he got drunk, fell, hit his head, ended up in the ER all last night. But the other guy said, if you give him money, he's going to go get drunk and fall again. So it is very difficult. And so I'm hoping, along with Mayor Garcetti, and they have redone a whole building, one of the old ones from World War I, into apartments. And each apartment has a little living room, with a bed. They have a kitchenette and a bathroom. That's a far cry from being on the streets with a shopping basket. So, thanks. That's probably enough said, but I really care about these guys. And do you mind if I tell you this little brief vignette? I was working, this was at 85th Evac, and I was in charge of 2 wards that were like Quonset huts. I had corpsmen like Dan, who really saved my butt day after day. But I had to go from one to another doing meds. Well, earlier in the evening, this young man said, Lieutenant, do you think you could give me a back rub later? And I said, well, I'd like to try, but I don't know if I can. About 10 o'clock, I realized that wasn't going to happen. I came by his bed, and I said, I'm really sorry. I just can't. I don't have enough time. I wish I could. And he says, that's okay, Lieutenant. Just your being here is good enough for me. And that is what I have on my thing at Arlington. And that meant a lot. That said it all. So on that, enough?
Well, Joan, again, Ms. Mitchell, I'm sorry. We want to thank you for your service here. And as a token of our appreciation, we have a very nice medal here to present to you. And I'm going to ask my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem, since this was his initial idea, to please present this to you.
Thank you all.
Some of you may be able to see it, some of you may not, but this is a keepsake for life.
Hold it down. Okay. Ms. Mish, don't go far. Hold on. We also have in the audience State Senator Stephen Bradford, who's here tonight. He also would like to say a few words in recognition of your time in the military as well.
Glenn gets all those recognitions.
You're going to get one tonight. Good evening. It is truly an honor to be here and recognize the efforts and the contributions that Ms. Mitchell has made, not only to this community, but to this country. So I'm honored to be here representing the 35th Senate District. And when I think about what makes America great, I often am reminded it's not the politician, it's not the individual, it's not the party, it's not the ideology, it's not even the rhetoric that we speak. It is men and women like Ms. Mitchell who has donned the uniform and went to fight for this country on foreign lands. You who have made America great, and that's why we are great and will continue to be great, because of the men and women like you who have served this country. So thank you.
Okay, so moving forward here, the next item we have are appointments. So does any member of the council have any appointments to make to any commissions, committees, boards, or council at this time? I think I will start first. Tonight, I would like to appoint to the Senior Citizens Commission, Mr. Charles Yu. And he's here present, thank you. May I, tonight we have to vote him in, so I'm making a motion to appoint Mr. Yu to the Senior Citizens Commission. I'm hoping I can get a second.
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by myself to appoint Mr. Yu to the Senior Citizens Commission and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you please call the roll?
Mayor Serta.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. I'm sorry, Councilman.
Yes.
I was looking at Mayor Pro Tem's initials on my paper. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka. Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. She did mine first. Okay, my apologies. Okay, so it's official. Mr. You've now been appointed to the Senior Citizens Commission. You do need to be sworn in tonight, so I'm going to ask Becky or Mina, if you can, our city clerk, if she can please swear in Mr. Yu.
So I'd like you to raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Yes.
Okay. I,
I,
Charles Yu,
Charles Yu,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly
affirm
yeah, okay,
that I
that I
will support
will support
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
Constitution
of the United
of
States
the United States
and
and
the Constitution of
Con-
the State of California
Constitution of the State of California
against all
Ag-
enemies,
against any enemy,
foreign
foreign
and domestic,
and domestic,
that I
that I
will bear
will bear
true faith
true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution
to the Constitution
of the United
of the
States
United States
and the Constitution
the Constitution
of the State of California,
California.
that I take this obligation freely,
I'll take the
obligation
freely
without any
without any
mental
mental
reservation
reservation
or purpose
on purpose
of evasion,
of evasion.
and that I will
And I will
well and faithfully
faithfully
discharge
discharge
the duties
the duty
upon which I am,
upon
upon which
which
I am about to enter.
to enter.
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Congratulations, Mr. Yu. Would you like to, I'm sorry, go ahead. Congratulations, Mr. Yu. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you.
If you like to say anything?
Okay.
If not?
Thank you. I'll just to do my best. Since I'm senior, I have experience with the small business task force in City of Gardena, appointed by the Paul Tanaka 12 year. I'll do my best. I know what the seniors, the mind and how they feel, so I can do my best and then can help the City of Gardena better than before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So before I go to, we finish appointing individuals to commissions, it's my understanding that we have students here, Gardena residents who are students at San Pedro High School who are observing our council meeting and need to get credit for attending our meetings. So I just want to make sure all of you guys take your agendas over to the side here so that they can be signed. So you get credit for being here tonight. Okay.
Mayor Serta, we've already taken care of
You've got them all?
Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Okay, so next up we have a couple of more appointments here to be made. And this is going to be made to the Gardena Economic Development Advisory Committee Task Force. I have a nomination. My first one is going to be to Jules LaRosse Khan. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I have two. One is Carlos Lifujo and also Mo Shimarani, one from Gardena Nissan and the other from the South Bay Auto Auction.
Okay. Councilmember Henderson, do you have a nomination?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two nominations, Mr. Naresh Shalinki and Steve Rogers, who is Captain America.
Okay. Councilmember Kaskanian, do you have a nomination?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do have two individual, Zoraida Hernandez and Robert Kwan.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Tanaka, do you have any nominations?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I have Gene Hale from the Foundation and Victor Amenta from Gardena Bowl.
Okay. Mr. Acting City Manager Madrano, do you have a nomination?
Yes, my nomination is Wanda Love from the Gardena Chamber.
Okay. Now, as all of them come forward here, I also, we need a motion to, I need one of you to make a motion to move forward with the nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, a motion was made by Councilmember Kaskanian and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Dina. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina. Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember, or Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, congratulations, guys. You guys are all our new Gardena Economic Development Advisory Committee. Would any of you like to say anything as a group? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Well, thank you in advance for all the work that you'll be doing moving forward in the future. Okay. Okay, next we're moving on to item number 4C2, which is the council assignments and delegates for the alternate to outside committees. Mr. City Manager, will you read the this item number here?
Yes, Mayor Serta, members of the City Council. This is a reappointment of Mayor Pro Tem Medina to the LA County Vector Control District. His reappointment as a member of Board of Trustees for a 2-year term effective January 1st, 2018. I also understand that Mayor Pro Tem Medina has also been elected as president of the Vector Control Board.
Okay, and it looks like we need a motion to for him to continue as a representative on this board. Is that correct? Okay. Is there
Move to reappoint.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka to reappoint Mayor Pro Tem Medina back to the Vector Control Board, and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is the consent calendar. Does any member of the council wish to discuss any item separately than what's stated on here? If not, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as is?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Medina and a second by Councilmember Kaskanian. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 7A1. This is regarding the Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet here. Does any member here wish to call for a review on this item here? If not, then we'll receive and file. No, we're going through each one individually. Next is number 7A2, and this here is in regards to the site plan review for the demolition of the YMCA building. And I'd actually like to appeal the decision on this item here. And if we can schedule this here for a hearing. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, the YWCA. Okay.
Mayor Serta will schedule that for a hearing at the next available date.
Okay, about at least 30 days out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up is item number 7A3, and this is a request for a subdivision of a property on Redondo Beach Boulevard. Does anyone want to appeal or review this item?
On that one, the commission action is not final. They have to adopt a resolution before it comes before the council.
Oh, there was not a
So
form
at
on
this
this
time,
one?
receive and file.
Okay. We'll receive and file, and this will come back to us. Okay, at a later time. Thank you. Okay, next up is oral communications, and we have 4 speakers here tonight. First one is Jack Nemeth and Mickey Bryant here. I want to remind everybody that you do have, come on forward. I want to remind everyone that you do have 3 minutes to speak. When the yellow light comes on, that lets you know that 2 minutes are up. When the red light comes on, that alerts you that your 3 minutes are up. At that time, if you can just finish your statement and stop at that point, we'd appreciate it. So go ahead. You have the floor, Mr. Nemeth.
Hi, my name is Jack Nemeth. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Honorable Mayor and council folks, the reason I'm here is I'm chairperson of the Rent Mediation Board. We've had some interesting developments. We're getting a lot of cases coming to the city right now. We had between 4 and 5, I think, that were assigned at just the last meeting. I was absent from the last meeting. I was on vacation. And I want to thank everybody for appointing members to fill the board. But I caution you to please look and make sure you appoint members to the appropriate offices. We have some people that have been appointed that don't represent the category they're appointed in. I've got a couple of landlords that aren't really landlords. One person does not own rental property in the city of Gardena, owns a home and should be a member at large. I have some other members that have been appointed that don't show up to meetings. And I've had one person I believe was appointed almost a year ago, and they've been to maybe 3 meetings. And it really makes it hard because the ones that are there, and I'm sure those that have been on the board that are up there can appreciate the fact that if you're not at a meeting, you can't be put on a case. And it really makes it hard for those of us that are left, and I've got people saying they're getting a little tired of it. So I'm appealing for some help. Before you appoint somebody, if you could give either myself, Mickey, or our city liaison a heads up, let them explain what the duties are and why you need to be at meetings. And that might help some of us down the road in the future. And that's kind of where I'm here.
Okay, thank you. We'll definitely follow up with you and have our staff take a look at the requirements that all the board members, that
Okay.
they fit within those categories there, the
I
3
appreciate it.
categories.
Yeah, and Yvette can also help you with that. She's an expert at it, so.
Okay, we'll put Yvette to work too. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Cheryl Sherman, and then after Cheryl Sherman, we have George Guadike, and then after that, we have Terry Kennedy. So,
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Cheryl Sherman, Vice President of Friends of Gardena Willows Wetland Preserve. Just want to remind everyone that the Gardena Willows Wetland Preserve you own. It's federally protected. It has no age limits. So if you're 1 year old or 99 years old, it's yours. You own it. Come visit it. Come enjoy it. How did it get that way? Well, it's a wetland. And the water from there goes to the Pacific Ocean. And that makes it eligible to be a federally protected waterway. So I thought I would share just a little bit of history and a little bit of knowledge with you this evening as to how and why the preserve is so important. I'd also like to share with you that next month, November, the Friends will be celebrating their 11-year anniversary since our incorporation. And we've decided that at our November 18th Saturday workday, which will be from 8 to 11, after the workday, in celebration of our anniversary, the Friends will be providing lunch for all volunteers. So I encourage everyone to come out, have fun with us, get lots accomplished in the preserve. If you need community service hours, I love to sign off for them. And it's a great way for you to see the hidden treasure that's right here in the city of Gardena. And once you're in there, it's like being in the mountains. And you haven't left the city. And that is really a cool feeling. Last week, I had about 40 high school kids say to me, this was the greatest experience they'd ever had within the city. And they live in the South Bay area, not necessarily in the city of Gardena, but all in the South Bay area. So that was pretty amazing to me. So I encourage everyone to come out, and our next stroll day will be November the 12th, when the preserve is open to the public. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Next, we have Jorge Guadike from GDAP.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, City staff, and all those in attendance. And I'd like to start off by saying Happy Red Ribbon Week. We celebrate this week in celebration of DA agents who was fatally Oh, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Medina, I see that you're rocking the ribbon. But to continue on, this is a week for substance abuse prevention, bringing it to the light for mainly working with the youth in our nation. Gardena High School Task Force has been holding lunch activities all throughout this week, along with the help of GDAP. I do want to address an item that is on the agenda tonight, and that is 8B1, the deleting chapter 18.66 and adopting a prohibition of all commercial cannabis in the city. I just want to bring to light that, as mentioned, we're really focused, GDAP is very focused on protecting our youth against substance abuse. We are worried as GDAP that if marijuana is to be allowed within the city of Gardena, an increased exposure to our youth will lead to an increase in use amongst them. Research in prevention has shown that with alcohol and tobacco sales, the more liquor stores you have, the more areas that sell tobacco, the more that the youth in those cities are likely to use. But it doesn't only stop in our communities. We also find that in the home, that's where a lot of exposure is happening for different substances. So with personal cultivation being allowed within the city, I would like to bring up that the city of Fontana has actually installed a permit process for personal cultivation just to make sure that families are following the 6 plants allowed within their homes, and also including that these plants are properly stored and locked up so that way any children in the homes aren't exposed to these to marijuana. So those are just some points that I want to bring up in regards to 8B1 on tonight's agenda. I also do want to bring up at this time a quick reminder from last meeting as well. On November 3rd, we have a Donut Do Drugs marijuana educational event at the Nakoka Center. GDAP is hosting that, and it will cover topics such as marijuana and its effects on the youth's mind, bodies, marijuana and its effects on communities and the environment, changes in legalization since November 2016, and many more topics. Refreshments and raffles are provided. And also, this Saturday, we do have a National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. If you have any expired medication, then we will be in front of the Gardena PD collecting the expired medication. But as I'm reminded from Mayor Pro Tem last meeting, Gardena does have a 24-hour 365 drop box. It's the green drop box that kind of looks like a mailbox right outside the PD. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Terry Kennedy.
Good evening, members of the council. I just wanted to make a comment about your recognition of veterans. It's on your agenda tonight. It will be on the agenda forever. Every agenda going forward will have someone's name there that you will bring forth and thank in an official way, government to the veteran. This program initially came about because of then Councilman Dan Medina. And for some reason, it didn't work out originally. And I don't know all the ins and outs. But after the election we had in March, the 5 of you agreed that we should go forward with this, and we have. And I went over to the city clerk's office, and I got a copy of the guidelines, City Council Recognition of Gardena Military Veterans Guidelines, 1 page plus a third. These are the guidelines that we are using for this program. And whoever wrote this did a real good job. And a lot of times written skills are underrated. Really, this is a very good job. And the reason I mention that is because I think each one of you, and me too, and those of us in the community interested, should have a copy of this. And should we encounter an elected official from another city, Carson, Hawthorne, Lomita, Rancho Palos Verdes, they all have veterans too. And I bet you some of them would be interested to know what we're doing here, but you have to talk it up. And this is a very simple, easy to read format, and I'm willing to bet that council members from other cities, if you hand this to them, that they will also do for their veterans what you're doing for ours. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We have one more addition here. We have State Senator Stephen Bradford like to speak to NORA Communications.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for indulging me, and I promise I'll stay within my 3 minutes. I was going to ask to come back and be agendized because I do what is called legislative updates, but since I'm here tonight, I figured why not take a chance and see if I can do it in 3 minutes. As you're probably aware, and many aren't, our legislative year ended on September the 15th, and then the governor had another 30 days to sign all bills, which was a week ago Sunday, October 15th. So our legislative year is over, and that got to his desk, well over 1,000 bills were either signed or vetoed. I'm happy to report I had 21 bills that I introduced this year. 14 got to the governor's desk. 11 warranted his signature. So I'm happy with that outcome. But many have stated this legislative year as a whole for California has probably been the most progressive of any state in the nation because we passed SB 1, which is the gas tax. And I know no one runs for office with intentions on raising taxes, but that's what we did back in April when the governor signed it. And starting in November, everyone will be paying 12 cents more a gallon for gasoline. And they said, why did you do it? We did it because we've had 25 years of neglect of highways, roads, bridges, and we couldn't continue to kick the can down the road, and we took a tough vote, a vote that was a bipartisan vote, a vote that was led and shepherded by the governor, and one that's going to pay dividends not only for the state of California, but communities like Gardena and the entire 35th Senate District will be able to do repaving of roads and highways and byways. But what got me to yes was a provision that we were able to put in the bill, and that was the supplier diversity component. I met with the governor, and as many of you know, the governor came to the 35th Senate District in June, and we met at Cal State Dominguez Hills. We had 250 women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned businesses. Mayor Pro Tem Medina was there present, so I thank you for your attendance there. And the governor made a strong commitment to diversity because I challenge you, the last time you've seen a highway project, when did you see a woman out there working or a person of color? So we're going to be raising billions of dollars of your money on an annual basis. We want to make sure diversity is part of that. It is part of SB 1. The park bond that we passed on the last night of session, it's going to create billions of dollars of competitive grants, but each city will get about $200,000 to rehabilitate, maintain, and support your parks. So, but it still needs to be approved by the voters of California next June. So if you want to improve your parks, we have to get out there and pass that. And last, the housing bond. We know it's a housing crisis not only in LA County, but throughout the state of California. We walk out of here and we see numerous homeless people. Part of the problem is that we are not building affordable housing anymore. Part of the problem was we ended redevelopment in 2011. So we passed a housing bond that, again, has to be passed by the voters of California, but it will afford us to write down and provide incentives for developers to build housing. My language regarding inclusionary housing is part of that bill, which says if a developer says builds 100 units at market rate, he has to put a certain percentage below market rate and provide affordable housing. So that was a full year. I know 3 minutes doesn't do it justice, but I respect the time. And as I walked in here, it didn't seem like 8 years since I've last sat on this council dais, but this month makes 8 years since I've been here, but it's always home, and it's always good to see my colleagues and my former colleagues. So thank you for this opportunity. And from the students in San Pedro, I represent San Pedro, so if you want to get a picture outside real quick, let's do that.
Well, thank you for the update. We appreciate it. Okay, next up is we move on to agenda item number 8A1, Mr. City Manager. Sorry, hold on one second.
Ms. Sherman might want to get those Pedro kids down to the wetlands.
Mayor, Serta, members of the City Council, Agenda Item 8A1 is a capital improvement plan update. If you recall, during the presentation of the 2017-2018 budget, I made a commitment to brief the City Council and the community on what we're doing in terms of capital improvements throughout the city. I think this is important because this includes many improvements through in our community that are highly visible to our residents and business owners: streets, curbs, gutters, parks, our own storm drains, as well as our own city facilities. So the goal is to use this capital improvement plan as a road mark to keep us on track, to ensure we spend our money wisely, and we're doing projects that are enhancing the quality of life for the residents here in our community. Senator Bradford mentioned SB1. You know, part of that is how are we going to use those additional funds to improve our streets. Our streets are rated some of the highest, as we all know, in California, but that takes a lot of effort and continued reinvestment. So I'm just going to give you a quick highlighted overview, and I want you to know that this is a partnership between all of the departments putting this together, because we all have different areas that involve capital improvements. And as we go through this, it's also a way for our community members to see what's going on and what's planned for their parks and other city infrastructure. Good, next one. So here's a brief look at what's going on in recreation, human services, parks, and facilities. And if you see there in this presentation, I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's $1.5 million of improvements scheduled at our parks. And if you look at the projects themselves, you know, Raleigh Park improvements for $600,000, I'll mention that. General fund parking improvement throughout the city, $404,000. We have all of these projects. What's listed below is where we're at in terms of those projects, and you think to yourself, okay, we've only got about 14% done. Some of these run multiple fiscal years, but these are some of the things that are going to occur. I know the Nakaoka Center it's been broken for a long time, that divider, our audio-visual capacity there. Those kind of things that we all, I think, here in the city, like, hey, we need to fix these things. What are we doing to do that? I've heard complaints about a blue tarp at the park at Arthur Johnson Park. Those kind of things that we're showing that we're making progress relative to the city's park and facilities. Little technical problem here. Next, in general services, where you can see here that there's a $8 million budget there. The vast majority of that is Prop C, gas tax money, et cetera. We have spent a lot of money improving our streets. We need to continue to do that. There's also upgrades to our catch basins, sidewalks. I was told recently that after this year, we will have every intersection with handicap accessible ramps. It's pretty great and ahead of schedule. So as you see here, $8.6 million. So far, we've spent $3 million. We've planned out. They will be on track. But we also have to plan forward as SB1 money comes in, because we are going to be able to do a lot more things in our community. And one of the things I think is important is we need to start looking at how we can do some more traffic calming measures throughout our community. I know you've had the experience of having several people come up, talk about traffic, safety, parking, speeding. I think we can use that money to be a little creative and maybe doing something different that the city has not done before relative to traffic calming devices. Okay. So G-Trans has about $8.3 million. There's a lot of amazing stuff happening at G-Trans with some of their projects, but you know, we just recently approved getting all the new signage out for the bus stops. That was, I think, the last council meeting. The charging station and CNG fuel station is a $3.5 million project, and then the bus signal priority and computer-aided dispatch and automated vehicle location, so $4.3 million. These are all technical advances that G-Trans is working on to make have a little more accountability in what they're doing out there in terms of their scheduling, where the buses are, how well they're performing, and to get some synchronization to try to be as efficient as possible. Now, you ask, well, why have we not spent any money? We're highly dependent on outside sources for funding there, but these are in the works. And as soon as that funding becomes available, we'll go out to bid and make these a reality. Then we also have the public safety and community center projects. To date, only about $240,000 has been spent. The city authorized approximately almost $20 million for this project. And the reason that number is so low is because we've just been doing, RFPs and contracts and some minor designs. So it's still in progress, but with this type of project, it's highly technical and requires a very slow, methodical process to ensure we don't miss anything. This is one of the biggest capital improvements we've ever done, and we want to make sure we get it right. But we are moving forward with that. I just want to know if any of the members of the City Council have any questions. We'll be providing this update about quarterly, and I encourage you to provide me any questions or information you'd like to cover on any future presentations.
Okay, Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for the presentation and the update. I just want to make sure with all the funding and all the projects as they come forward and into fruition that we maintain a commitment to working on making sure our local resources and businesses and community participate in some of these projects. I just want to make sure we really keep a strong commitment to that.
That is absolutely well taken. I know that the city attorney and I have been working closely, like, for example, on the new buildings to ensure that local vendors are used, local hiring, local trades, those things, because it is important. That money just returns back to Gardena when we use our local vendors and our local, other skills. By the way, I want to mention you have a very, very detailed report in your packages that talks about every specific program I just mentioned. What's required now is just to receive and file, Madam Mayor.
Okay, are there any other questions? Councilmember Kaskanian.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for the presentation. I have a question. If we can go back regarding the budget, $20 million. I thought that it was less than 20 million in the beginning.
If you recall, there's a number of different funding sources. One is general fund. Two is park in lieu, and there's money from the foundation, and there's also money from asset forfeiture. So the general fund portion is not to 20 million.
I see. But the total expense estimated to $20 million.
Yes.
It wasn't 15 million. The 15 million, it was coming out from the city budget.
Right, and then there's the $3 million around from park in lieu, $500,000 from the foundation, and about $2 million from asset forfeiture.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councilmember Tanaka?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a question. I read this report, and as you said, it was very detailed. I think it was very well done. It shows that we're not perfect, but we're way ahead of the curve right now. And I appreciate what you and your staff have done to make sure that, we're within the parameters, and we're actually saving money because of the forward thinking that you guys have all done. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have one question. I was under the impression that this time around that Raleigh Park tennis courts were going to be redone, or is that in the next phase? I didn't see that when I was reading through this.
In some of the park improvements, there are multiple projects within those park improvements. So some may, include not just one project. So one project may be, let's point one out there. The Prim Pool is $85,000. That is just one project. But if you go down towards park improvement, there's a number of projects in there. So if it's not in there, I'll double check on that. But I thought that was included in there.
This time around, the reslurring of the tennis courts at Raleigh Park? Okay.
I'll double check on that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under the park projects, that would include the restrooms at Freeman and Fukai and all the ones that need
There's a
Okay.
there's a lot of our restrooms that need rehabilitation, and we're certainly going to make sure we take care of those.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions at this time, we're going to receive and file this item here. Next up is item number 8A2. This is ordinance number 1782. Mr. Acting City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item number 8A2 is regarding ordinance number 1782, moving the date of the city's general municipal election from the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March, odd number years, to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March of even number years beginning in 2020. Yeah, I know that's confusing. This item came before you and had been introduced. General municipal elections for the City of Gardena are currently held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March of odd-numbered years. Senate Bill 415 prohibits a local government from holding an election on any date other than a statewide election date. In doing so, in the past, has resulted in significant decrease in voter turnout. The city did not meet the qualifying criteria to continue to conduct standalone elections and must move its elections to the date of the statewide elections. As a result, terms of our current office holders will have to be increased or reduced. Newly chaptered bill, Senate Bill 568, moves statewide primary elections in even-numbered years to first Tuesday after the first Monday in March. This makes it possible to adjust the terms of office by extending current terms no more than 12 months in compliance with the limitations of the election code. There's a detailed staff report included with this. The fiscal impact is about $70,000 from the election fund, and what is required is that the City Council adopt ordinance number 1782.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And since I introduced this, this ordinance, I just want to make sure that it's clear for everyone that basically all we're doing is moving from the next cycle, which would have been 19 for us, to 20. Because as you reread it, and it almost sounds confusing again. So just make it clear for everyone at home that our normal 19 cycle just goes to 20. That was it.
And this is the best option for the city, and it's actually also the cheapest option.
Okay, are there any other questions? I have a question. So I'm a little confused. So now that we're going to even number years, will our elections either be in March, June, or November? Because now we're going to be consolidated with the state primary election. So
the primary election with Senate Bill 568 moved from June to March. So our elections will be March, starting in 2020.
Oh, okay.
And they'll coincide with the county recorder.
Okay, okay, got it. All right.
This is also very helpful. We don't have to be in the election business anymore, and it does help the city. It's much more efficient.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Did anybody else have any questions? Go ahead. Mark, did you have a question?
No.
Mr. Henderson, I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. Well, I was just clarifying things because it is confusing. So the 2019 moved to 2020, right, and 2020 moved to 2021. Is that the case?
No. We're all even number
I'll
years
let
now.
Becky answer that, but no.
So our next election is March 2019.
For everybody.
It was. This is what it was.
Yes.
And so now with this new Senate Bill 568, it extends our March 2019 to 2020.
Okay.
And our 2017 election that just happened in March is going to be 2022. Everything is being extended by 5 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I got it.
Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to say anything?
No, I was just going to say the long and short of it all is we're going from odd to even, period. The years will remain the same except for the ones that were voted in this time. We're getting an extra year. But your term will be covered on an even year as opposed to an odd year. That's all.
Everybody understand? Okay. I have one last question. It's a little off here, but this is just for clarification. And I'm only asking this because I was a former city clerk before. And generally, as a clerk, there's mainly two responsibilities a clerk has, and that is to be the record keeper for the city, and the other handles the elections now. So does that now take away that role of you guys handling the elections, even though we're letting the county do it as well? If you could maybe just give me a little bit more clarification as far as your role still in it.
There's still things that we need to do to candidates' packages, and, Becky handles all of that, and she can speak to it. There are things that we still do.
We'll still have that control over it.
Absolutely. They're just going to run the election.
Okay.
The ballots go to the county, they get counted there. That's what their role is, and we do everything else. Correct, Becky? Do you have anything to add?
So we take care of the candidates. So in this last election, there were 14. So we take care of the packages. We set up meetings, bring them into our offices, explain everything, and we just go from there. And make sure all the forms are in on time, and there's filing deadlines, so we have to meet those as well.
Okay, so basically the same thing we just had in the 2017 election. Okay. Okay.
It does really eliminate the need for us to, count the ballots and, do all of that.
The
and
canvassing and so on.
it is also cheaper.
And I'm sorry, what was the other thing?
Poll workers.
The poll workers.
They get all the poll workers. We were doing that in the 2015 election. It's a lot of work.
And does that fee come out of?
The county. It actually, people sign up to be poll workers, and there's a list that they go from. It's my understanding now that they're going to be more selective about who they choose to be a poll worker now.
Okay.
So, and there's a whole new voting process, but that'll be explained later.
Now, was the city paying for that before, and now the county will be paying for those poll workers?
Mm-hmm.
And
it'll come out of our budget.
And we will still have say as far as where the locations will be at, or are we now with where the county designates the locations?
We are. They always use all of our parks.
Okay.
They use probably about 4 or 5 additional spaces, some churches.
So we'll possibly have more locations now?
Possibly.
Okay, that's a good thing. And it's cheaper. Okay. And a greater turnout. Can I get a motion to approve this great?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Medina and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 8B1, ordinance number 1781. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item number 8B1 is an adoption of ordinance number 1781. This ordinance was introduced by Councilmember Tanaka at the October 10th, 2017 council meeting. This ordinance deletes Chapter 18.66 of the Gardena Municipal Code in its entirety and adds new Chapter 18.66 relating to medical and adult use cannabis and adopting a prohibition of all commercial cannabis activities in the city and imposing regulations for personal cultivation of cannabis. On September 5th, 2017, the Planning Commission held a duly noticed public hearing on a prior version of this ordinance, at which time it took into consideration all evidence presented, both written and oral. The Planning Commission recommended to the City Council to prohibit all commercial, medical marijuana, and adult use cannabis activities in the city and impose a permitting scheme and reasonable regulations on personal cultivation. As you've seen in the paper recently, many cities have adopted a very similar ordinance and are taking a look and see approach on how this whole commercial marijuana plays out once the state starts issuing its licenses in January of 2018. What is required by the City Council is to adopt ordinance number 1781.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments at this time? Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
And I'm assuming this will take place a month after we voted in, or 31 days, should I say? Correct?
Just like any other ordinance.
Okay.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Chief, in regards to the medical marijuana use, because there's delivery activity already occurring in the region, will that cause us some issues in regards to enforcement and different things like that? Because the activity is occurring, is this an opportunity for us to at least look into how we handle that delivery activity and permitting that for the medical marijuana delivery?
Well, in this ordinance, we're not providing for delivery, but we cannot stop them from using our roadways to make deliveries to other jurisdictions that have delivery.
So even their delivery to our jurisdiction, how are we going to handle that? Because that is occurring as well.
Well, I mean, we'd have to do enforcement because we're not allowing for delivery. You know, it's going to be very difficult to be quite honest in terms of how we enforcing that, you know, prohibition. It's just like all of this. It's going to be, you know, a slow approach to figure out how we develop strategies to deal with that. And just like the personal cultivation, you know, the 6 plants and under, you know, this is all new for everyone in California. So how we regulate where they grow it, that they do it safely, that they're in compliance with building codes. Those are all things that we've never had to deal with in this state. So all of this, I think, will, you know, will slowly work itself out. As many of you know, there's been probably 25 plus additional pieces of legislation related to marijuana because we'll come up with issues like that and there'll be needs for tweaks in the law.
Thank you. One other thing I wanted to add to that. So could this be a potential opportunity for us to kind of get these delivery businesses out of the shadows and figure out how we can, because they're going to be traversing our city and delivering in our city, could this be an opportunity for us to bring them out of the shadows and maybe control that by permitting them and us having a real strenuous delivery permitting process for medical marijuana?
Yes, as previously discussed with the City Council, I think the approach here was to watch how this all unfolds in other communities and you know, learn from each other. Quite frankly, we as a government need to see what's working and what's not working. But I think if you allow, in my opinion, if you allow this to occur without really having any, because we don't have any foundational basis to know how this is going to work and impact us, and take a look at what's going on in surrounding cities and then develop, you know, longer term strategies, there's absolutely no reason we can't come back to the City Council and modify or introduce a new ordinance.
Okay. And I have, before I let Councilmember Kaskanen ask a question, I have a question for Councilmember Henderson, just for my clarification. So are these delivery cars, is there signage on the car that says we're cannabis, or are they just a plain vehicle delivering?
Just a plain vehicle delivering for, and I'm not talking about commercial adult use, I'm just talking about the medical marijuana use, is that there are services that are working in the South Bay delivering medical marijuana, not commercial or not a regular adult use. So I just wanted to see how we would handle that, because the customer base that's actually partaking in the medical marijuana are some of the folks that are seriously ill, terminally ill, some veterans issues, different things like that. So there's some concern there in how we handle that. But yeah, it's occurring throughout the South Bay now.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kaskanen, you had a question?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Chief, as far as the personal cultivation, how are we going to enforce that? Is there going to be a code enforcement? They're going to knock on the doors? I mean, we are here to inspect how many marijuana plants you have. How is that going to controlled?
You bring up an excellent point, Councilman. Once again, uncharted territories. We're going to have a permitting scheme for, you know, cultivation, personal cultivation. But as we all know, not everyone's going to come in and get their permits and comply with the law. So a lot of these will be based on complaints. Maybe, you know, whether or not a police officer goes to a location for a legitimate call for service and notices a cultivation, and just to check to sure that they have the proper permits. But, you know, it's impossible to ask our police department now to be the, you know, personal cultivation marijuana police, because they're pretty stretched thin. So as a result, it's, you know, it's going to be the honor system doing the right thing, coming in and getting your permits. For those who don't, you know, it's going to be difficult unless we get a tip or a complaint to identify them.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time? Mayor Pro Tem Medina?
Since we're into 2017 and 2018, you all might realize that not everything is going to be delivered via a vehicle. If you know Amazon, They're starting to use drones. They're starting to just get to your front room and they drop it off and it's done. So that's another aspect that I think we should look into, because drones are being used by not only Amazon, but what's that other company that delivers food to your house? They're starting to use drones. It's anybody out there know the name of that thing that delivers food? Yeah, those guys. They're using drones now, and it's like, you know, you can have a drone police. Yeah. You laugh because we're gonna really have our hands full if we're gonna enforce this. 90% of all the things that we pass have to be enforced, and that's something we need to look at, because not everything is done by vehicle anymore. A lot of them are using drones. Some of them are using Uber's already looking at drones to move people. So just looking at the future, that's all.
So as I've mentioned in the past, if we don't put this ordinance into effect before January 2018, then we are subject to the provisions of the California state law. So we did want some local control. This is something that we are definitely going to have to keep our eyes on and adopt model best practices from other cities as they develop. Some cities are going to go all in. In this region, most cities are doing what we're doing, but we as local government need to network and figure out what's working and what's not.
Okay. Are there any other questions at this time? I have one, and this may be more technical here. Our oral communication speaker, Jorge Guadique, he made some comments in regards to this particular item here. Would that be included on this, in this here, as far as the remarks? Because it was related to that as well, because he was speaking in favor of this ordinance here.
We can include his comments in part of this this agenda item.
Okay, great. If there are no other questions, can I get a motion to approve this item as is?
So moved.
Is there a second? Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Kaskanian. Will you call the roll?
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
I think we still need to make some provisions for those that need medical marijuana, so I'm going to say no.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next we're moving on to item number 8B2. Mr. City Manager.
Item 8B2 is it's going to be a presentation, but before I ask Joseph Cruz, our General Services Director, to come up and provide the presentation, I want to sort of give the council the genesis for why we're doing this. Several council meetings ago, I believe Councilmember Henderson asked for an update on what's going on with Rosecrans with respect to a strategic plan and the Rosecrans corridor update. And then I've had individual conversations with all of you about what's going on with economic development. As you know, we had an economic development manager here for a long time. She recently retired, so that gave us an opportunity to look at what's going on in terms of economic development and what we need to do to make this a city that people want to come, live, and invest in. One of those things is we need to figure out why people want to come here, what businesses we want to attract, and what makes us different. We put together a collaborative team that included all of the directors and some of their second-in-commands or other people they selected, and they went off-site and had a one-day session led by someone who's an executive of IKEA who talks about economic development, branding, et cetera, to try to figure out a way that we can move forward and make Gardena stand out. As you know, not that far to the north of us, we have a major development going on. We have a new stadium, sports center, housing, entertainment. That's going to affect us. And how do we leverage Gardena to be attractive to businesses that either support there or are direct, services to that location? To the south of us, we have one of the biggest single parcels that is now on the market, the former headquarters of Toyota, now being developed, and we don't know what's going to go in there. That's going to highly impact South Gardena. So what are we going to do for the future? And we want to look at this from not just a day-to-day thing, from a strategic vision on this. And I just want to thank the directors and their staff, because they're putting a lot of work into ensuring that we have something we've never had before, a long-term strategic plan for economic development for this city. And I believe that the efforts that are going to come out of this are going to have significant impacts as we move forward. And the last thing I'll say is that the city needs to brand itself. If you look at some of the information we have, are we the city of opportunity? Are we the freeway city? Are we a city that has the bonsai plant and the seal? Are we just the G? We have not done consistent basis on branding ourselves. If you take a look at an organization like Google, it's Google. They don't change anything. That's their brand. IKEA, that's their brand. So we need to develop the Gardena brand so that we can market it and make this city thrive. At this time, I'd like to ask Joseph to do his presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Serta and council members, for allowing me to present an overview of our economic development strategy. The city's already seen many success stories when it comes to economic development. The Olson and KB home developments, the new commercial development at Redondo Beach Boulevard and Normandy, the many establishments that have come to the city of Gardena and set up shop, In-N-Out Burger, Panda Express, multiple Starbucks locations, the Jersey Mike's that's going to open tomorrow, and the grand opening that many of you attended for the Nachos Lab. So the future is bright, and there's much more to come. In order to maintain that momentum of success, we will shift gears and evolve. We will become more recognizable, more adaptable, stay current and connected with the community and businesses, much in the same way that Apple has evolved and maintained a presence as a leader in the technology industry. Before we shift gears and discuss revamping of our economic development strategy, I'd like to take a step back and discuss what is economic development, why is it important, and how is it accomplished. Depending on who you ask, economic development is defined differently, but typically there are three common elements. There's the land element, because businesses need to be located someplace. There's the labor element, because businesses need a workforce to be successful. And there's the capital element, because there needs to be an initial investment to reap future financial rewards. I think most simply put, economic development is an investment in the community and the return on investment to the community. Economic development is important because it's the lifeblood of the city. A thriving local economy allows businesses to grow and be successful. It generates revenue to fund city services and improves the overall quality of life for all residents. In deciding how best I could explain how to accomplish economic development, episodes of Shark Tank played back in my mind. And for those of you that are not familiar with the Shark Tank show, it's basically the premise of the show is for startup companies to pitch financial investment to billionaire investors. Those that are most successful on that show develop a rapport with the investors. They know the numbers, in effect, the performance metrics for their businesses. They also have a plan for marketing. They understand their workforce needs, and they have a plan for mitigating their weaknesses. And the same applies to economic development. Economic development is accomplished by building those relationships, becoming familiar with the economic data and analyzing it, marketing and promoting, and providing financial and technical assistance where it's needed. It's often said that the only thing constant is change, and for economic development, change and the desire for constant improvement is a good thing. That's the definition of revamp, and that's exactly what we need to do and will do. As committed as I am to the success of economic development, I can't do this alone. As Ed mentioned, and with his support, we formed a focus group of city staff that convened to hone in on an economic development strategy moving forward. That strategy included 2 common elements that I discussed previously, the land and labor elements, and 2 derivatives of the capital element, the branding and marketing and the arts and entertainment. I'll go into that a little bit further. With regard to branding and marketing, we will create an identity for ourselves, ideally as recognizable as Apple. We will develop, maintain, and strengthen relationships, both within and outside of the city, that allows for repeating and long-term clients to businesses within the city. And certainly social media will be a part of that, will play a significant role in that strategy. With regard to land development, we will activate underutilized vacant lots while enhancing the aesthetic value of those properties. And we'll also highlight freeway accessibility along major commercial corridors, including Rosecrans, Artesia, and Redondo Beach Boulevards. With regard to labor, we will identify and enhance partnerships with organizations like the South Bay Workforce Investment Board, the Small Business Development Center, and El Camino College to connect businesses with training, technical resources, and access to capital, giving them the best opportunity for success and growth. Lastly, with regards to arts and entertainment, we will partner with civic and other business-minded individuals and organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, the Police Foundation, members of the Economic Development and Advisory Committee that you just appointed tonight to highlight the best of Gardena at community and social events. In closing, the evolution and switching of gears, revamping of the economic development strategy will yield long-term benefits. I've heard overwhelmingly from our constituency that they appreciate our willingness to listen, provide flexibility in the development process, and create a true sense of private-public partnership as we work together to develop economic development. Thank you, and take any questions that you might have.
Just before we do that, if I could, Mayor, I just want to thank Director Cruz for his help, and there's 2 other members of the team that are also helping along with that. Raymond Berrigan, he's in the back, who's helping a lot with this and is managing it day to day for Joseph, and then Elizabeth Hernandez, who's also in the back, who are the 3 that are highly focused on that. And just one comment before we take questions is, we have to think about it in this city. We're highly dependent on our revenue sources coming from 25 major providers. We need to diversify that revenue base. And then, of course, we all know we're highly dependent on 2 businesses in this city. Our goal needs to be to diversify that revenue base so that if there are hits in any of those 25 or the big 2, that we can sustain that long term.
Okay, before we open it up to questions, I too would like to thank all who were involved today in putting this presentation together. We've all been asking for this for some time now, and I'm happy to see that we're really moving forward, you know, very quickly, and especially in preparation for this new stadium that's going to come. And as I've been saying for some time now, this is going to actually benefit the entire region, and to know that Gardena is now in a position where we're preparing and, you know, seeing how we can take part in all of that. So again, thank you to all that you've started off doing. I know there's going to be more to come, and I'm looking forward and hearing and seeing more that you guys are going to do. So I'd like to open up to any questions or comments at this time. Do I see any hands? Oh, Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for this presentation. Rebranding and re-identifying yourself is definitely a arduous and long exercise. In regards to how we rebrand ourselves, is there going to be an opportunity for a community to actually lend us some ideas and input on how we should rebrand ourselves? Because as the chief said, are we the freeway city? Are we just the G? You know, what are we? But we want to make sure that the community has some involvement in this exercise. And then what's the timeline as far as when we come out the end of this chrysalis as this wonderful butterfly? When will that be?
Absolutely. The goal is to involve the community. I think the ideal organization or agency that will do that is through your Economic Development and Advisory Committee. We will engage with them at the appropriate time. There's still a lot of legwork to be done before we can engage in direct conversations with them. In terms of a timeline, we would like to move forward as aggressively as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to rush this. We want to get it right the first time out. You really only have one opportunity to put your best foot forward, and we want to make sure that that happens.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Henderson, Kaskanian, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Joseph Cruz, great presentation. I love it. You have my 100% support. Liz, Raymond. My question is, are we going to have the members of Development Advisory Committee involved in your meetings, or are they going to be joining forces with you, with your staff members, that they're going to give you ideas, or, are they going to be involved in general?
Yeah, we will involve the Economic Development and Advisory Committee. As I said, there's probably still a lot of legwork to be done before we reach a point where we can have those meetings be productive for everyone. But we are on a fast track, and we are going to put that on a short timeline. At the first opportunity that we can engage with them, we will.
And I just want to add that one of the reasons we decided to do this, to join those two groups together, is because we wanted them to be a resource and be highly involved in this process. So, we're taking this step by step, but now that we have one formed committee that's joint from GBAC and EDC, that's going to be much more effective in helping us, design this vision.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody knows that the members, they are well experts in this field. Most of them, they have the connection outside the city, so they will be great help. So, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Yes, I'm just looking at some of our surrounding cities. A lot of the surrounding cities have rebranded themselves, and the guys and girls from San Pedro know that, because they used to be an old San Pedro logo that's been changed. And one of the things that a lot of the cities have done, like Glendora and Whittier, they put it out there for the people to write up some logos, to show some examples of what the rebranding would be. And that's what happened in San Pedro. They rebranded themselves so the logo would be different from the old-fashioned one. So maybe that's something you should consider with regards to putting it out there so the people will have some say-so as far as what the logo would look like, as far as the rebranding. Some youngsters out there might have the right idea that we don't think about, just as an example. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a comment?
G-Town sounds good. Sorry, that's just me. So how much will the community be involved in making suggestions as far as where and what should be developed, or how it's going to be developed, or what should be there?
Councilmember, as I meet with our constituency at the various events, I attend as many of the public events as I can. I engage in those discussions with them quite frequently. In terms, I think to open it up to the broader community becomes probably a little bit overwhelming. I think working through the Economic Development and Advisory Committee is probably the most appropriate action at this time, but certainly we will never turn away any opinion. I'm glad to meet with anybody and hear what they have to say.
And I'd just like to add, once we get some possibilities together, there's nothing wrong with bringing, community members in to talk about these possibilities. But as Mr. Cruz said, we don't have anything to say, hey, what do you think about this? So we have to sort of get this a little bit more finalized and a little bit more, put together so that we can outreach the community, the chamber, and others. Say, what do you think? I want to remind everyone that G-Trans did this.
Right.
And I think they did it very successfully. So we have a model that we can follow.
Okay. You know, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one of the comments I wanted to make. I was very impressed with the way G-Trans opened it up to the community and to their employees as they came up with their color scheme and, you know, went from Gardena Municipal Bus Lines to G-Trans. So you're right, that was great. The second point I just wanted to bring up is that please feel free to call on us as a council because a lot of times businesses and companies will contact us. Not that any of us want to be in your way here, but if need be, like I just recently, Mayor Butts from Inglewood recently extended some help to us that we were able to, you know, pass on to you. So if there's anything that we as a council can do, please let us know that. One thing I just happened to notice over the years now, when it comes to social media, if you want to find out about different events happening in Gardena, you have to kind of pick and choose which social media in Gardena you want to be on. Do you want to be on G-Trans Instagram? Do you want to be on the PD's Facebook? Do you want to be on Nixle? I believe Parks and Rec has their own Facebook as well. So my suggestion is, you know, like we were saying, bring it all together because that's the only way you'll know about one event. I think even at the city manager's office, I think they send information out by mail. So it's so many different things, and I'm sure we'll probably even save money if we eliminate one or two of those things and just bring it all together. So that's just my suggestion, and I'll let you guys take over from that point.
Yes, sir. We've already started doing that.
Good,
We've notified the directors. We're going to limit our Facebook pages, our Twitter, the content on our web page. And you're right, you know, our master calendar for city events, those kind of things. There are some departments that need their own special outreach, G-Trans, for example, advertising some of the park and recreations events, but they all have to be coordinated with one master calendar, so we're starting to do that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions at this time? If not, what are we doing with this one? Are we receiving and we're receiving and filing? Again, thank you for all that you put into this. Great job. All right, thank you. So we're going to receive and file this item here. Yes, please give them a round of applause here. Next, we're going to move on to item number 8E1. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item number 8E1 is to approve a contract to Mobile Relay Associates, Inc. for the lease of a digital radio system for 1 year with 2 one-year options for a total contract value of $382,475.52. G-Trans utilizes a digital radio system for both its fixed route and special transit system services and currently contracts with Mobile Relay Associates, Inc. for its digital radio system needs. These radios are in every single bus and are a critical way to provide communications from to bus operators and from bus operators out in the field and to coordinate with dispatch. Radio service also provides critical communications with the Gardena Police Department's Metro unit to ensure that they're there when they are requested and to ensure the safety and security of G-Trans employees and customers riding the bus. G-Trans is in the planning stages of its new automated vehicle locator global positioning system, which might eventually replace the current digital radio system. The planning and solicitation phase may take up to 2.5 years to get that project to full implementation. While the planning and solicitation phase is underway, G-Trans intends to extend the existing contract for its current radio system until the new ABL GPS system is in place. The recommended contract allows G-Trans the ability to cancel the contract with a 60-day notice as the ABL GPS system is fully tested and ready to go live. The monthly cost for the lease with Mobile Relay Associates is $10,624.32, and the annual cost is $127,491.84 for the first year. The total for 3 years is $382,475.52. There is no general fund impact. Funding for the leasing cost is included in the fiscal year 18 budget previously approved by the City Council for G-Trans. Funds for subsequent years will be included in future budget presentations for City Council approval. What is required is to approve this contract.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two questions. First, how did we get them to agree to 2 one-year options? And could you explain the U.S. forestry fee and how that works? Because that I didn't quite understand.
You know, as part of the negotiation process, we also knew that we needed to have an out clause. That initially wasn't part of their contract, but we knew with this other system possibly coming online and limiting the need for this, we wanted the ability to exit out of this contract in a pretty quick fashion. You know, that is an excellent question, and I have no idea, because it seems odd, and maybe the city attorney or someone else, why the forestry fee applies to this type of contract. It's just a state mandated requirement. It seems kind of odd.
Okay, are there any other questions? Or do we have an answer or no answer?
It's a state mandated requirement.
Okay. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve this item as is?
So moved.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Henderson, and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Medina. Will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 8E2. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, item 8E2 is ratify administrative approval of the agreement with Jobel Rentino for procurement consulting services for an amount not to exceed $75,000. So as part of G-Trans Federal Transit Administration, FTA's review in 2016, G-Trans was found to be deficient in the area of procurement. Now, I will say that G-Trans has the most technical and difficult procurement guidelines of any part of our city because it has to deal with federal FTA funds. Hiring of the procurement consultant is part of G-Trans' effort to ensure it has the appropriate expertise on hand to continue to set G-Trans on a path for enhancement in its procurement system. The consultant will also train the new G-Trans staff that will be responsible for the procurement function. Jobel Rentino was hired in May of 2017 to assist with the procurement program. At a rate of $75 an hour, Mr. Rentino developed the scopes, solicitation, documents, and completed procurements for the gasoline hybrid engine project, bus stop signage poles, line-by-line analysis, and gasoline and renewable diesel projects. In process are also solicitations for construction management services for the G-Trans charging station, which we all know is a significant project, the automatic passenger counters, and the intelligent transportation system project consulting services. In addition, Mr. Rentino also standardized the procurement solicitation files to ensure compliance with rigorous federal, state, and local procurement requirements. There's a high volume of upcoming capital projects which require Mr. Rentino's unique experience with FTA-funded procurements. There is no impact to the general fund. Cost of procurement consulting services is funded using local sources available at G-Trans, and the amount is to not exceed $75,000. What is required is the City Council ratify the existing agreement.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for this presentation. In regards to advertising for this opportunity, where did we advertise for these services? And then I have a follow-up.
So this is adding to the additional services he's already been providing. As you see, he was hired in May of 2017. Part of the thought process of continuing to use this is, number one, he's done a good job. Number two, he understands G-Trans. So if you switch at this point with all of these major projects, someone's going to start from scratch again. So the discussion with the transportation director, this is the best course to ensure that we don't meet and fall through any of the deadlines that we have.
Continuity is important. And here's another suggestion, recommendation in regards to advertisements and contracts. I'm not sure if we do it already. If we keep a log of where we advertise some of our previous contracts, I'm not talking about going back forever, but within at least the last year or so. So when somebody asks us in regards to how many types of firms or whatever, where did you advertise, we can actually be transparent and say, oh, we've advertised this contract here, here, and here, or the trade journals or something like that. And that way we have it, and then we're done with it. So that's just a kind of a suggestion.
Yeah, and Councilmember, you've mentioned that in the past, and we did provide a report, and we did identify some gaps there, and are starting to implement steps to ensure that our solicitations have better reach, and we're getting more people to participate.
And that way, at least we have the information, so when somebody says, well, I looked in Gardena Valley News, but they should have looked in a transportation trade journal or Western Cities, they'll know next time that opportunity comes up, they can know also where to look. So, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? If not, can I get a motion to approve this item as is?
So moved.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Henderson and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Medina. Will you call the roll?
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina?
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Councilmember, yes, Councilmember Kaskanian?
Yes.
And Mayor Serta?
Yes. Okay, next up is council directives. Does any member of the council at this time have any directives? I have one. I'd like to know if maybe I could get a report back on the number of employees who work here for the city, how many have been trained in CERT, and if any haven't been trained in CERT, only because I've recently been taking the class again. I thought it might be a good idea that we look to maybe at least have one person in every department attend a CERT class, just because many of us are at work for 8 to 12 hours, and in the event of a natural disaster, it would be good if they have the training. Not to mention that it's free here in Gardena, and it's offered several times of the year. So if we could just get some follow-up information in regards to that.
We'll definitely do that.
Okay. Are there any other directives at this time? Okay. If not, then City Manager, you have some follow-up to some previous directives.
Yes, Mayor, certain members of the City Council, in your packages is a number of follow-up items that have either come from oral communications or requests from the bench. But I'll start off with something very positive. Inside your package is the Moody's Investor Service report on the status of Gardena and its fiscal outlook. And as you can tell by reading that report, we are in absolutely great shape. I think that is because we've had good stewardship of our finances, and we have exceed many of the benchmarks for cities of our size, for specifically mentioning our reserve, our low debt ratio, those kind of things. It's a very positive picture of Gardena. The only thing in there that is negative, which is pretty much what all cities are going through right now, is pension liability. It's just, I don't think there's a city in California that probably doesn't have that as an issue, but overall an outstanding report on the status of our financial conditions. Also in your package, we just had our first presentation of the Gardena military veterans. You have your schedule there, so when you are due for selecting your service member, I will also let you know that we added to the Gardena Direct app a way of submitting names. If you want to, as a community member, submit names for recognition, you can do that through the Gardena app. It's also on our website. We now have a new application that's available on the website, as well in hard copy in City Hall. There's a report there on the very contentious Raleigh Park parking districts, the area surrounding there. You have the committee's recommendation there, and what we will do is bring back to formalize those recommendations to the City Council. There is an opportunity for all of you to take a look at that and provide me comments if you have any changes. But I think what the committee did was come up with a very reasonable plan that addresses, you're not going to address all of them, but the vast majority of the citizens' concerns. There was a request about what we're doing for coyotes, and there's a coyote management plan inside your package. There's also an update on a couple narcotics activities that were reported to the council members and thus reported to me for follow-up. Also included a jazz festival summary and what it costs for police services, as I do, or we do every year. pretty excited about this is that on November 3rd, we're going to be doing filming. I know the City Council has asked us to take a look at how we can increase filming. We're actually going to have filming here, right where all of you are sitting. HBO series called Silicon Valley is going to be here on November 3rd. And it's going to be a pretty big crew, and they're going to use our council chambers to film in. So, and just on one more note on that, we're very, very close to finalizing our agreement with Film LA. So those are positive things, and I think we're very friendly to the film industry. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to council remarks. We're going to first begin tonight with Councilmember Henderson. You're up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for that report. That's actually good news. So this is very apropos regarding our branding and different things like that that are happening in the region. Since our last council meeting, I've attended a few things. We had our open city hall here in the council chambers in the council office right there, and a lot of things were on people's mind that did show up. Parking was one. The other one was our economic development. So this is all kind of serendipitous in regards to it all coming together. So this is actually a good time for this. I also had an opportunity to attend the Taste of Soul briefly in the big city to the north of us. And that was a great event. A lot of people out there. It still doesn't rival any of our festivals that we have here in the city of Gardena in regards to how we treat our people here. I was also at a State Commission and Board presentation that was conducted by the Congressional Black Caucus of State California Assembly, and what that opportunity was to introduce the opportunity for citizens to volunteer and get involved in state boards and commissions. So that's something that we want to make sure that, as Supervisor Riley Thomas said, engaged people engage people. So, and as a council, we always want to make sure we encourage folks to engage the process. I know I do. So that information I'll give that to city staff to actually promote that. So for those that are interested in participating or applying to participate in a state commission or board. I also had an opportunity to volunteer at the Veterans Administration in West LA in conjunction with the Watts Boys and Girls Club. We were teaching kids from ages 6 to about 14 golf at the Heroes Golf Course. So it was interesting to work with some veterans there, some disabled, working with some Air Force veterans. You know, I'm a Navy man, but Air Force folks think a little different. But it was a great time. I think we learned more from the kids and First Tee than we've learned in our years of service. But it was a great opportunity to actually work with the veterans. We also attended the Baha'i celebration this past Sunday, which actually was a great opportunity to learn something about another faith and religion. So that was very enlightening to me, and I was very moved. Yesterday, I attended the South Bay Council of Governments broadband steady meeting, and our employee Alex Pinto was there. And actually, he's a great employee. He had a lot of insight. He was not shy in what he shared in regards to what broadband could do for our community. So as we talk about our branding and economic development, having a broadband network in our community, which means we then have fiber in a lot of our locations. We could then probably develop business parks and new hotels and different things like that. It's an opportunity, as well as having an educational component to make sure those that are underserved in our community that do not have access to technology, that's an opportunity as well. So I was accompanied by the Councilman Christian Horvath of Redondo Beach, a few technology folks from our South Bay cities, and our Alex was the star, so that was great. So I want to make sure that he gets that acknowledgement. And also, in regards to economic development, I had some family and friends and business partners here from out of town, and they're entrepreneurs, and so they were trying to, or they're working on with some of the technology companies in Silicon Beach. So they wanted to stay over that way. So I talked them into staying here and then the extended stay and see what Gardena has to offer. So we kind of did our own taste of Gardena and everything. So I want to thank a few businesses, LTO, which is the the taqueria right there on Van Ness and El Segundo. They sponsored a little get-together for me, as well as Bates Fish Market. I want to also give a shout-out to them. Lamelli's, I want to give a shout-out to them. Maki Yaki, Crazy Rockin' Sushi. Where else did we go? Hakata Ramen. Wow. So I tried to give them a flavor of Gardena. There's a lot of places. We just want to make sure that people understand that Gardena has a lot to offer. So again, this is very appropriate that we are now working on this. So as we start, as council folks, we start sharing with people what we're doing to attract businesses and do the things that we need to do. As I tell people, Gardena is the gateway to the South Bay, and we are the jewel of the South Bay. So I want to make sure that we stand by that commitment. Madam Mayor, so ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I make my report, all the guys from San Pedro and the girls too, stick around. We're going to have some birthday cake, and it's free. And I know half of you guys are falling asleep, but the cake will wake you up on the way home. So stick around. We're going to do that in about 10, 15 minutes. I just want to make a report that since our last council meeting, I went to our vector control, and I just want to add a little. I was voted president of the Vector Control Foundation, not the whole directors, because you have to be there at least 5 years before they make you president. But I'm the president of the Vector Control Foundation. And for those of you who don't know what vector control is, the mosquito guys. We're trying to change the uniforms of the mosquito abatement people, because when they walk up to your house, they look like sheriffs. They have those brown tan things with a patch on the side, and they think that they're sheriffs. And lately, with all this immigration stuff that's going on, they're not allowed. They don't allow them to go into the backyard. But we're having a lot of problems with the Zika mosquito, which is creating a lot of birth defects for pregnant women. So if you have any standing water in your backyard, no matter where you live, whether it's San Pedro, Gardena, or LA, please get rid of that standing water, because it breeds a lot of mosquitoes. I also had a chance to attend the Gardena Legislative Breakfast with Congresswoman Maxine Waters and Congresswoman Nanette Barragan, Senator Steve Bradford, and the candidate for governor, John Chung, who is our current treasurer. And they all spoke about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and also in Sacramento. And I also got a chance to DJ for the AYSO Disabled Soccer 17th Annual Tournament. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, but I DJ, and I'm also a musician. And it was really cool to see disabled kids playing soccer. They've got these wheelchairs with little extended paddles, and they kick butt playing soccer. You know, and there's some kids out there playing with not walkers, but they have these things on wheels where they get to play. They actually get to play soccer, and it's really cool to see kids having fun that normally don't let the disabilities get in the way. There was some autistic children, some paraplegics, and every one of them got a chance to play soccer for at least 3 or 4 hours. And I got a chance to DJ for them, and they asked for a lot of current songs that are out now that didn't think they would ask for, but we had from 9 to 3 nothing but music and fun and kids playing soccer, and really, really had a good time. I also attended the Baha'i events last Saturday. I don't even know what day I live in. And it was interesting to find out the different sects of sect, S-E-C-T, so you don't think I'm saying something else. And it's a different way of carrying on their religion, kind of like they carry their religion by example as opposed to preaching. They don't kind of hover over you and tell you you're wrong. They just kind of hang out and let you know what's so for them and how it works for them. So I really had a good time. I just want to do an update on my band played for the El Segundo 100th anniversary, and we got 4 jobs out of that, and we'd only been together 20 minutes. For those of you who are musicians, you know what it's like when you jam with someone, all of a sudden you got a gig for 4 hours, and you only have 1 hour's worth of music. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to do that, play for a wedding for 4 hours when we've only had 1 hour's worth of music. That's just something that came up, and I'd like to ask for those of you who like food, tomorrow at noon we'll have a ribbon cutting at Jersey Mike's on the corner of Redondo, and Normandy. So if you get a chance, come on by tomorrow at noon. They're going to have a lot of free food. Well, I can't guarantee it's free, but you go there for the ribbon cutting, yeah, they'll give you a little taste here and there. So come on by if you get a chance. Tomorrow at noon at Jersey Mike's on the corner of Normandy and Redondo Beach Boulevard. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councilmember Kaskanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report will be very short. Sunday, I did attend Baha'u'llah 200-year celebration, and I did learn something new, new faith, new religion. I would like to thank Joyce Watanabe for the invitation. After the celebration, I did go home and YouTubed it and learn more about the faith. So in their belief that there is no borders and everybody is equal. So, I encourage you guys, maybe go YouTube it tonight, tomorrow, or any time that you guys have a chance, and you guys will learn a little bit regarding the faith and the religion that they believe in. And yesterday I did attend that Sister Cities meeting, and it was a lot of information given to us. Everybody knows that we are leaving next Tuesday. We'll be in the plane next Tuesday by now, going to Japan, Ichikawa. And there was a lot of information it was given to us, and we all got excited to go. And that's about it. That will end my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next up, myself. Thank you. Since the last council meeting, actually, we all attended a lot of some of the same events here, so I'll try to go through this fairly quickly here, so I'm not redundant here. But one of the events I had the opportunity to attend was the 22nd Annual South Bay Workforce Investment Board's their annual award ceremony, and I'd just like to kind of take my hat off to SWIB, and that's the acronym for that long name, South Bay Workforce Investment Board, for doing such a great job. This organization helps people find jobs, and they work with the neighboring cities here, Gardena, Hawthorne, Inglewood, I believe in Torrance as well. Helps people in the community find jobs, as well as helping employers get employees to come and work for them. So it's a good organization, and we get to hear great success stories on how people go to SWIB, get job training, and when they graduate, they have jobs that potentially can make as much as $70,000 to $100,000. So it's not just a job, but a career. So I was happy to be able to attend that. I also, on the following night, had the opportunity to be a guest speaker at a women's empowerment conference in Ontario, and it was very nice, and I was very excited to be their official speaker as a women's empowerment conference. I also attended the speaker appointment event that was held in LA along with Councilmember Henderson, where they were explaining to us how people in the community can get jobs, or not jobs, sit on commissions for the state. So a lot of good information, and if you'd like to know more about that, please see Councilmember Henderson or myself, and we can explain in more detail how to apply for those positions as well. And on last Thursday, I participated in the LA County Shakeout event that was held at the Natural History Museum near USC, and I spent probably the better portion of the day there where we were with our CERT team as they were doing demonstrations on how we can protect ourselves in the event of a great earthquake. And I was joined by Mayor Garcetti along with Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, as well as we looked at all the various things that the CERT groups in Gardena, City of LA, and a couple of other neighboring cities, how they help their city prepare for events like a natural disaster or an earthquake or something. And with that being said, I want to constantly encourage people to please consider taking a CERT training class. We're currently in the process of a 3-day class going on right now. They just began their most recent session on last Saturday, and their second session is this coming Saturday, and I think their third session is on November 4th. But it's a great class to attend to learn how to take care of yourself and your family in the event of a natural disaster. And I want to constantly emphasize that it's not just an earthquake, but it could be anything. And just a better way to help yourself and those who are around you. And just understanding, what can happen in the event of a natural disaster. We may not have any type of services, police or fire, and we might have to take care of ourselves for several days. So the class is very informative, and I know it's too late for anybody to get in on this class now, but definitely keep your eyes and ears open to take future CERT classes here in the city of Gardena. It's free, and it's held here locally. And also on this past Sunday, I too attended the Baha'i 200th anniversary celebration with my colleagues as well. And just a couple of things I want to mention coming up. In the past, I mentioned my Mayor's Challenge walk that I usually have on the first Saturday of the month, but I won't be there this coming November for the Mayor's Challenge. As was mentioned by Councilmember Kaskanian, there will be at least 4 of us who will be in Ichikawa, Japan, celebrating the 55th anniversary of our sister city there. So we will be there for, 4 or 5 days, and hopefully we'll be able to come back with a lot of remarks about our time in Ichikawa. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So next up is Councilmember Tanaka.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quickly, I have to apologize to Joyce Watanabe and the Baha'is' 200th anniversary that I did not attend. So my apologies for not being there that night. Ernie, did you guys have a function at El Camino College? Okay, I just want to let you and your staff know that I was at an Elks function, and a few people came up and they were totally impressed with your people. So kudos to you and G-Trans and what you guys presented that day, because they were very, very happy with what you presented. So thank you for representing us. I kind of, this week has been kind of hectic for me. I've lost 2 friends that were Mohicans from Gardena High School. Harvey Horikawa and Wayne Horino passed away within 4 days of each other last week, and so it's been kind of going through that. And I've been on the passport adventure because I am going to Japan now, so I'm running amok trying to make sure that my passport and everything is is legal. So other than that, Madam Mayor, that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you. So let me give you a couple of quick announcements here before we go to our adjournment here. As was previously mentioned just a few moments ago, we do have a grand opening of a restaurant, and we want to invite everyone in the community to please come out and help us celebrate the grand opening of the 2nd Jersey Mike's here in Gardena. That's going to be at the corner of Redondo and Normandy on tomorrow. The ribbon cutting is at 12 noon. And I think it's going to be a great time there. We always enjoy our grand openings here in the community. So please come out, help us support this business as they kick it off with their 2nd Jersey Mike's here in the city of Gardena. So it's at 12 noon tomorrow, and that's Wednesday, October 25th on Redondo and Normandy. Also, we have our National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, which is on Saturday, October 28th at 10 a.m. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's right in front of the PD. It's like, was mentioned like a little mailbox there, but it says RX on it, unused RX. So if you have any drugs or that you want to drop off, you can drop it off there on that day. And it's always available, so it's 24/7. You can drop it off there. And please cross out your name before depositing whatever prescriptions or drugs you have there. One other flyer that was given to me was a Halloween party that is being put on by the Gardena Elks Foundation, which is on Saturday, October 28th at 6:30. I believe there is a fee for this, $25. But because there are several of us up here are Elks, I thought it was important to share this here. It's a dinner, games, DJ, and raffle. So for those of you who are looking for something to do on that night, the Elks is having a Halloween party. So, I'm sorry? And Mayor Pro Tem Medina will be DJing. So, also we have our by GDAP, the Donuts Do Drugs, a marijuana educational event that will be on November 3rd, 2017, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Nakaoka Community Center. And for more information, I'm sure there'll be flyers in the in the hallway here. And, oh, and before we go on to remembrances, if everyone could please stay after as we celebrate the birthday of Mayor Pro Tem Medina. He's turning 21 again, and we have a really big cake in the back, and we definitely like to all get together and sing him a happy birthday. So tonight we're going to be adjourning our meeting in memory of Mrs. Marilyn Beals. She's 86. She was 86 years of age. She was the beloved mother of the City of Gardena Secretary Diane Jones with the Transportation Department. We're also going to be adjourning in memory of Mr. Pedro Pete Castillo. He was a 60-year resident of Gardena, a Korean War veteran, Army, and former city employee who worked in the maintenance department with the city's Parks and Recreations in the 1970s. We're also going to be adjourning in memory of Mr. Harvey M. Horikawa, Esquire, who was a longtime attorney with the law office in Torrance, and he was also a Gardena High School graduate and a former City of Gardena Planning and Environmental Quality Commission. We're also going to be adjourning in memory of Mr. Gilbert Bill Johnson, who was a longtime resident of Gardena and beloved brother-in-law of Mrs. Shirley Madison McCarthy, a member of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Cultural Committee of Gardena. Mr. Bill was well known in the Wilkie Avenue area as the one whose neighbors and friends could always count on to help them with any and every home project. So tonight we're going to be adjourning the Gardena City Council meeting to our next regularly scheduled City Council meeting, which will be on Tuesday, November 14th at 7 p.m. We are adjourned.
Hey, Dan, it's not San Pedro, it's Pedro.
I thought it was San Pedro.